I've read about ministers of God who are counseling younger ones that whatever they do in the ministry is important, but the children, your children, should be an example of that ministry, because there are examples of people who were so busy together, and at the end of the day, their children hated God because they felt they were not given any time. They are like abandoned, and they turn out so badly, and not one or two. And so this example touched my heart when I was reading such books, and I made up my mind that people may say I'm not too successful in other things, but I gave most of my time to the children. I gave, God helping me, what I can do in the ministry to the ministry. I was supporting, I was helping others as much as I can, but I made sure my eyes are on these children.
One lesson I've learned is to put God at the center of everything. Just to have a passion, to be passionate about God.
Carry a lot of burden, yet you love so passionately. Honestly, I do not know how you do it. You have a lot on your mind, and yet you still walk around, greet people. You give so graciously, even when you have little. Some people would say you have a lot of money, you have a lot of things, but no. Even with the little you have, you are willing to contribute to someone else's life.
There are certain things I've noticed about him, which is one is consistency. He's very consistent. Since I've known him, probably when I was conscious, probably at 3, 4, 5, he has always maintained a time of prayer. He's just too consistent. Usually the time he wakes up is about 3 a.m., sometimes 4 a.m. Wakes up to pray, usually about 1 hour, sometimes can even go beyond 1 hour. So his consistency and dedication to God. In addition to that, is discipline, because this is someone who is a consultant and also a pastor. Being a consultant alone can take a large aspect of your life. You understand? So much so that it might even reduce your commitment to God. Being a pastor can take a large aspect of your life that it can reduce your commitment to your family. One thing I've noticed that even with respect to these two things, there's something I've seen is thirst for knowledge. Because when he wakes up by 3 to 4 to pray, and then again he sleeps again. Then he wakes up around 6. When he wakes up around 6, he has his quiet time, and he also reads books from pastors and people from different spheres of life. So I just see this disciplined and very excellent and aided reader.
I've also learned to have a posture of servanthood. I should also be open to correction and constant improvement.
One of the biggest challenges I had to face in the initial part of the ministry was acceptance. Most times people look at me as something bizarre, because it seems to be, what is a doctor, physician looking for in medicine? In medicine looking for in church activities. And so it was as if I was on my own and everybody is watching me. And to some extent, quite some people were mocking me. So I have to stand my ground on the fact that God has given me this work to do. Then the second thing is the mobilization of support. Now there are quite a lot of people who were ardently in support of me, who work with me, but there were few. And whenever we came to our church, we found that there were so few. And each time I kept on asking the Lord, if you want me to build a church in a city like that, you have to bring the people.
People coming and going, they crowd in Ife. Ife is a relatively not too big a place, and they depend more on the teaching hospital members and Obafemi Awolowo University for most of the elitist people. So we deal with more of workers from these places and students. So many of them, when they have finished their program and they are either students or residency or some other things, many people do. So we work with labor in and out. By the time you enjoy the fruit of that labor and people serving, to be time for many of them to go. So all these things, sometimes it was challenging. There are sometimes some people be going, I go and cry secretly because I miss them. I mean,
then there was the problem of finances. Very few of us were working, and we had to take care of the finances of everyone and all the staffs and so on and so forth.
I recall while we were still in the Mayfair, the old, the place we left before coming to this Hope Auditorium. Now, it was time to roof the building. Remember, we have spent quite a lot of fortune building it. Principally, all the money were just coming from the pocket of the set men, as only very few, and even those who earn almost next to nothing. It was time to build, to roof the building. I recall that day we were sitting in the auditorium there at Mayfair. Pastor made a call for people to come and make donation for the building, for roofing of the church. That day, only 3 people stood up, and I can still remember the 3 people who came forward to come and pledge what they will give. The following Sunday, because the turnout was quite discouraging, the Reverend came up to pulpit. He just looked to heaven and said, "Give me 3 million! Give me 3 million! Give me 3 million!" I am not talking to you here. I am talking to the Heavenly Father. He said this 3 times, and I think 3 days later, this roof that we see covering this building came into place. Money moved from person to person to this ministry, and we give God praise. One of the things that have really kept this ministry going is indeed the unbreakable spirit of Reverend Professor G. Irabo and his dear wife, Reverend Mrs. Ayodele Irabo.
But one thing that really baffled everybody was Pastor's hope. It was like you look into the forest and you see building. The rest of us were seeing bush. He was the only one seeing a church is going to grow here.
One of the things that personally really challenged me personally in relating with Pastor and in the church is that Pastor is someone that will tell you do this, and he will first take the step of faith in going ahead in doing it. When the church needed to be built, Pastor gave sacrificially all he had, not just in finance, but also he gave himself to the work. And like I will tell some people around me today, that what Pastor is asking us to do, he has done them years before now. He is doing them even now.
We were carrying pompon, we were carrying bucket, we were carrying cement, we were carrying rake, we were carrying shovel. Pastor carried, he was dirty like everybody. He carried from morning till night in the sun with his wife, with the children. Every one of us carried everything. Pastor was the only one who was saying, look, this building will rise. There is going to be a big church here on this bush that we found.
I want to appreciate God for him, for his leadership. He led us through the way. He was so confident, you wouldn't, see any iota of fear in him, in his leadership style.
Pastor Reverend Professor G. Irabo also happens to be my father, my mentor, my trainer, and so the relationship between himself and myself, goes beyond just what happens in church to also along the professional line. So I've been terrifically impacted, in that I've personally witnessed the life that this beloved man of God is living, a life of great impact, a life of openness, a life of integrity, and all these have impacted me. My being a respiratory specialist today was it has a lot to do with my relationship with him, because when I saw him as a young medical student, he just modeled what the life I would love to live, and I just, that picture just got stuck in my mind.
One of the big things that has kept me going all through is the fact that it's a heavenly calling. I didn't want to be a pastor. I didn't want to be a preacher. I had no ambition of having any church. I was a man called, not a man driven. I had no ambition. And so it was clear that this calling became a magnificent obsession, something I could not leave.
From the struggles and challenges that we have been through as a church and the level of our trust and belief in God, it is clear to see that we were made for greatness, and we have barely even scratched the surface. The book of John says, "Very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works that I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these." It is with clarity that the church marches on, and the gates of hell must try, but we have an assurance that we will march on, and the gates will not prevail.
Now, the first 25 years of this church was formation, consolidation, and training. Beginning from July, the church becomes very global, and there will be satellite churches around the world. Initially, the principle was one church for all churches, one pulpit for all pulpits, one pastor reaching out to people around the world. But now we have trained people, and they're going to go out to the world to manifest and exemplify the character of Christ. Now, our church is a church that is not training people basically to be missionaries or basically to be theologians or basically to be pastors. We're going to go around the world with our profession, whether as physicians, whether as teachers, whether as artists. But as we get there, we'll influence the world through the teachings we have received. It is my pleasure to thank every single one around the world who have stood with us right from the beginning when this ministry started. I'm particularly grateful to those who have remained consistent for these 25 years. We may have had challenges, we have had difficulties. Without you walking by us, standing by us, we'll never be where we are today. I want to also say thanks to those who are not in this country or any part of the world, who've gone to other ministries. Thank you for the time you spent with us. Thank you for the love you have showered towards us. Certainly when people gather together, there will be challenges, but thank God that we don't have any enemies, we don't have any grudge with anyone. We are focused on the work that God has called us. And for the rest of us who are in this ministry, I want you to keep the fire burning. This is the most important era in the history of this ministry. It's going to be an area of blessing, an area of spreading the word, an area of reaching out to thousands of people around the world. The seeds we have sown for these 25 years will continue to multiply. I want to thank my dear wife, who has been so kind and lovely and supportive of this ministry, and also my children. And every other person, even my parents who are not alive, who were really involved in the latter part of this ministry. For everyone globally who has supported us. As we always say, out of the broken pieces of the past, God shall be a piece of hope. God bless you.
On a Sunday evening, I'm looking back over all the years and where I've been, looking at the photographs. I'm remembering you were right there, and you have been ever since. With every page that turns, I see your faithfulness. storyteller. Now I know it is well, it is well. That's the story I'll tell. There were some nights that felt like they would last forever, but you kept me breathing. You were with me right then, and all that you have done for me, I can never hold it in. So here's to me telling this story over and over again. The mountain where I climbed, the valley where I fell, you were there all along. That's the story I'll tell. You brought the pieces together.